Just setting the scene here. Look at this cutie. Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Sally and this is Sally Stitches And, which is my channel about cross stitching and the other hobbies that I enjoy. If you're new here, I'm so glad you could join me today. My name is Sally. I'm coming to you from Michigan, and what's the weather like today? It's pretty snowy, not too bad though. I really struggled to make this video today, and it's kind of a matter of like, I took an unplanned hiatus and then I just really struggled to get back in. So I think that the best thing for me to do is to make like a list of what I'm going to talk about. And then I'm going to probably actually record this piecemeal, like in a couple different pieces. There's a lot to catch up on, and I don't think I'll even be able to tell you everything I've been up to the last couple months, but I did miss doing this. I'm really glad that I've got a free time to do it today. So today, even though it's kind of toward the end of January, today I wanted to talk to you about 2025 crafting goals. I've got a couple that I'm very excited about and a couple that I think are going to be really challenging, and I just am really excited to share them with you. I also wanted to go through my works in progress and do a little bit of a whip parade. However, sometimes I consider like works in progress to be things that are like parts of sets where I've maybe finished one piece, but I have other pieces that I want to do. And so I guess instead of calling these works in progress, I want to call them projects in progress, because some of this stuff I actually haven't even worked on, but it is still a project. So, let's go ahead and get started with that. Now, I did not prepare any of these things. I made a pile kind of next to my cat, who's taking a nap right here, or at least trying to. She looks kind of irritated at me, actually. So what I decided to do was I decided to bring all my project bags here, and we're going to just open them up one by one, and let me talk to you a little bit about each one. Now, none of these have been ironed, but I did bring my handy dandy cutting board so I can kind of flatten these out. And here goes. So this first project is one that I have talked about almost every single video that I've made since I started my channel. And this has been an ongoing project for a long time. And my cutting board's not big enough, but I'll do my best. This is my progress on 324 by Works by ABC. I'm stitching this on 32 count fabric. The fabric is a limited edition cut from Color and Cotton, and it doesn't have a color name. It was just something that was like a grab bag thing. And this is where I am. I started in this corner and I've been working through these motifs. Now, if you're not familiar with this piece, there are 324 motifs, and the pattern calls for 324 colors of DMC. And so I started this in July, and what I've been doing is being pretty diligent about just doing one motif a day. Now, sometimes I don't do a motif and then on the weekend I catch up, and do like 4 or 5 motifs. It just really depends. But having one a day has really been a nice pace for me, and it's been fun to watch this grow over the year. Now, I did decide that for 2025, because I didn't start this on March 24th last year, like a lot of people that did kind of a little bit of a stitch along did, I thought it would be really cool to finish this on March 24th of 2025. And so this morning before I logged on, I went into Markup RXP, which I've been using to track my progress on this, and I counted how many motifs were left, and I have 101 motifs out of the 324. And then I asked Google, how many days do I have until March 24th? And I have 54 days. And so if I can keep a pace of about 2 a day, I'll have a little bit of a week's forgiveness, but I think I can definitely still get this done by March 24th. So that is one of my project ideas for this. And that kind of ties in with the first kind of, I wouldn't call them stitching resolutions or crafting resolutions. I like to call them more like crafting aspirations. And that is the idea that these are things that if I can get these done, they're going to be challenging and exciting for me in 2025. And the first one I have is 25 projects for 2025. Now, they don't all have to be cross-stitch projects. Some of them could be knitting, crochet. I'm staring directly at a crewel, vintage crewel embroidery project. Quilting, I have a quilt that's half done. I am sure I can identify 25 projects that I want to complete this year. Now, I actually already started a list, but I didn't go all the way. I made a list of about 12 projects for the first half of the year that I want to work on. And then kind of as I get through the year and make progress, I'll choose the final like 13 projects. So that's my first little stitchy aspiration this year. Let's do 25 projects, and one of those projects will be 324 by March 24th. Here's the next project. And do I want to take these out of the hoop? I think I will, just to show you the whole piece, because otherwise you just get a little window of what it is. Now this bag is very full, and because this actually has 2 projects in it, let me show you the first one. I've been working on this a lot this last week. This is something I started in November, and the name of this pattern is Festive Forest by the Blue Flower. Sorry about the wrinkles. So Festive Forest was part of the Jingle Ball that we had in early December. It was a class where you could stitch the pattern and then the class would be finishing it. You finish it, there's actually 6 panels here that are shaped kind of like these tall houses. I am stitching the 5th panel, and then there's 1 more at the end of my fabric here. When you do this, what you will do is you will do like a back stitch outline along this whole way, and then you cut it out and then you stitch it together, kind of like how you would stitch like a biscornu together, and you make a shape that is kind of like a 6-sided pyramid on the top with like a little 6-sided hexagon base. We're calling it a muffin. It kind of looks a little like a muffin. So I have really enjoyed this. This is done with a lot of the called for flosses. Most of them are DMC, but the pattern also called for some floss by Roxy Floss Company and some Cottage Garden Threads floss and a little Weeks Dye Works. I got everything except for the Cottage Garden Threads floss just because I didn't think I could source it from Australia in time to start. And I just started using Markup RXP this year, and it's really been nice for me to kind of like get a sense of like the total number of stitches that are in a project, and it's very satisfying to check them off and watch the little % completion widget, you know, get bigger and bigger and bigger. This is about 75% complete. It's 74 point something something complete, and I've really been enjoying it. This is something that I've been working on kind of nightly while I, you know, kind of unwind with TV or a movie or Netflix or whatever. Oh, I should mention, I didn't mention the fabric. This is a 36 count cut of Cypress by Fiber on a Whim. And you'll notice this is a very large piece. And that is because there is another pattern that is a very similar shape. And let me see if I have it here. Because the reason this bag is so poofy is because I actually have both projects kitted up. Here's the pattern leaflet. The other pattern that I want to put on the same piece of fabric is also by the Blue Flower, and it's called Bees in the Greenhouse. And you can see that muffin shape, I guess. This is another design, I can show you the bottom here, where you're going to stitch it long and skinny, like these tall house shapes all together. And then in the end, you finish it like this. I have enough fabric that I can finish it in the exact same piece, which is good because it's not quite the called for fabric, but it's close enough. And since I have the flosses here organized, I can kind of show you how the flosses for Bees on the Greenhouse will look. So that's 2 more projects. Finish Festive Forest, and then Bees in the Greenhouse will be next. I also don't have them with me, but I purchased some really pretty little like jasper round beads online that I want to use as a little topper, like to look like a little berry topper on the top of my muffin when I'm done. So, okay. These, by the way, are not in any order. I am just kind of unzipping stuff as I get it. Let me take this out of the hoop too. This is something that I started last year, actually kind of around the time I went to StitchCon last June. and I put it away for a bit, but I brought it back out because I wanted to do something that was kind of Valentine's Day themed. And this has colors that remind me a lot of Valentine's Day. So this is the Skipjack sampler. This is by Ardith Design. I'm stitching this on 28 count fabric. The name of the fabric is Magnolia Magic by Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. I got this as part of a Fabric of the Month club. The flosses I'm using are dyed by Forbidden Fiber Company, and they were dyed like specifically for this set. But I think that the color of the fabric and the colors of the flosses remind me a lot of those candy sweethearts, you know, like the little conversation hearts that you can get at Valentine's Day. And so when I was thinking about Valentine's Day projects and thinking, oh, should I start something new, or should I, you know, kind of work on consolidating my works in progress, I decided, let's consolidate this. I am almost exactly 50% done with it. And so I put a couple stitches in it the other night, and that felt really good to, you know, get back into it after a hiatus. Okay, the next project I have here is my next 2025 aspiration. And that is the idea of taking an older stitch along, like a year-long stitch along project, that's something that's very big that I haven't started because I'm like, oh, it's so big, and making it my own stitch along for this year. So I'm actually calling it, I'm very proud of myself because I think this is cute, a stitch alone. So 11 years ago, this was a stitch along. Now it's not, but I'm here and I'm stitching it alone. Although I actually do know another person who's stitching this right now. So that's just fun for me. Mostly alone, but also, you know, together. I started this project a couple years ago and I made a counting mistake, and it's been on a very extended timeout. So I'll show you the counting mistake too. But the name of this project is Once Upon a Time by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And I just finished my January block, which is right here. It's Snow White with the dwarves, and they're all doing laundry. So this is organized as like a 3x4 grid, and every month in the original stitch along they would release a new block, and that's how I'm going to stitch this year. I am putting this aside until February, and then I will pick this up and I will stitch the next one, which is like, I think it's like the frog prints. Now I am stitching this, by the way, on it's a crystal fabric, so you can't really see, but there's a little sparkle in the fabric. And the name of it is Doubloon 28 count by Picture This Plus Fabrics, which I do believe is the called for fabric for this. I originally started this, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, as a center start project. And I made a counting error and I got really mad, and I didn't want to unpick all the stitches, and so I put it in my whip bin, and then I didn't touch it until this year. This is my little miscount area, and it's actually a little smaller because what I am doing is, just as I work my way through, I'm gradually unpicking these stitches so that by the time I get to May, which is, this is the May clue, I'll have an empty space, you know, to work on. And so that's good. I you know, get a couple stitches kind of rewound, you know, rewinding like in a video, and then I add new stitches. I had a lot of trouble with this border. Like I stitched this castle over like 3 times because I miscounted, and so I do have to be careful with this one. Obviously, for some reason I keep messing it up, and because it's a grid pattern, it is important that I don't, you know, make counting errors, because it really will affect the rest of the project. I am stitching this using DMC threads. The threads themselves are actually pretty old because I bought them back when the original stitch along was there. And so this is like a very big mess. But what I did was I took them off of some bobbins that they were on, because they were the paper DMC bobbins and they were, you know, fraying. And I ended up using some floss drops. These are actually bobbin shaped floss drops by Adam Hart Cross Stitch. Originally, I just rewound this floss onto these bobbins because I thought, oh yeah, sturdy bobbins. But the little slits on these are not thick enough to hold the actual floss around the bobbin. And so I ended up unwinding all of those little bobbins and then kind of folding the floss and cutting it into usable lengths. And so it's all pre-cut and ready to go. Despite its age, I don't find it difficult to work with. It's just like, it looks like a mess when you pull it right out of the project bag, but you can straighten it out pretty well. Excuse me, I dropped my scissors. I'm gonna put them back before I step on them or I lose them. So. Do you have a project that you want to work on the rest of the year? I think that it's really fun to have something that you can kind of do little by little. I'm excited to see what some of the new stitch alongs this year are going to be, like that are released by designers. I know that last year I really wanted to work on like a Halloween house by Satsuma Street, and I didn't do it because I was busy with other stuff. You know, but Satsuma Street a lot of times has some really pretty stitch alongs that are very enjoyable. The pace is very fast on her stitch alongs. Usually she does like every other week releases a clue, where a lot of people do maybe like monthly clues. The Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery is finishing a stitch along, and that's in this pile somewhere. Hey, it's actually right here. Let me show you that next. So this is their current year's stitch along, and they are not set up like to start and end at the beginning of a calendar year. And so this is really close to the end, and then they will announce a new stitch along, I believe, probably the next couple weeks. But this is something I've been working on all year and I've really been enjoying it. It is called Animal Almanac by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And I worked on this last weekend. I am a little behind. So we have a new clue that just dropped at the beginning of January that I need to add here. But since I've showed this to you last, I have added like a border, and that's starting to go around. And then all of this like treasure braid to do these constellations. I really enjoyed stitching those. And then this last weekend, I just added this little heart seal, very cute. So there's an animal that goes here, and then there's one more clue, and then there's a clue that's on the bottom. And then this piece is done. I really enjoyed this stitch along. I didn't know if I was gonna be very interested in this because I'm not very interested in the Arctic or Arctic animals. I mean, it's different than like underwater animals, like when they did the Under the Sea stitch along a couple years ago, or they did Into the Jungle. I just, for some reason, I was worried it was all going to be like white Arctic looking animals, but there's been a lot of beautiful color variations in here. I actually quite really like the little labels for all of the animals, the bright color pops here. They kind of were inspired by like a museum exhibit, you know, like where you have those like big, like if you go to the Smithsonian, you have the big dioramas that have all of the specimens together and they're all labeled. I like to think these are living animals though. Some of them are eating or jumping or doing, you know, cute facial expressions. This whole thing has been really cute. I'm starting to kind of brainstorm ideas for how I want to fully finish this piece for display. I have two different options, and maybe you can tell me in the comments what you think. Option one would be I finish it like as a banner that's on my wall. I currently have Into the Jungle as banner. I'll try to grab some footage to show you. That's hanging above my desk. And so if I finish this into a banner that's of a similar size, then maybe I could swap them out. Like 6 months for Into the Jungle, and then during the winter and colder months, I bring Arctic animals out and have a little display change. The other idea is I could make a throw cushion. I like having throw cushions. I have one actually for Maple Lane, which was another Frosted Pumpkin piece that definitely reads like as an autumn themed piece. I feel like this is a very winter themed piece because of Arctic, you know, elements. So maybe I want to make a cushion and then kind of swap those out periodically instead of having Maple Lane out all the time on my bed when I make my bed. I didn't do it today. Here's my next project that I've been working on. Let me get this out. And this one is actually pretty close to being done. This is a quick one. Now, I think this is a very special project because it is kind of one of the first projects that I ever showed you on my Flosstube videos when I started last year. And this is part of a series that's designed by Hands On Design. And this is Winter Folk. So it's a long kind of band sampler. And I am probably about 75% done. It's, you know, I obviously just have like, oops, the bottom block right here. Now this is part of a series, and this is the last one that has been released. So there was a spring folk, a summer folk, autumn folk, and now winter folk. I stitched autumn folk first. I actually got it at a Chantel's 141 pep rally back in 2023. And it was like an exclusive release, and then it got released widely this last year. And so it's been really fun as the new ones get released to, get them out. Chantel's 141 Design Company makes a board that coordinates with this pattern. And then when we finished them at the retreat, we put magnets on the cross stitch pieces so that we can use the same board and then just swap out the magnets, as we see them. In fact, I'm staring at the board. Hold on a second. I will go get it and bring it to show you. Here is that board I was talking about. So I have autumn folk on this right now. So the board is like a paddle style. And then there are magnets on the back of my finished piece. And then there are magnets on the back of the board that are very strong. And so I can click new pieces in as I want to finish out the seasons. Now you can buy these boards at the 141 Design Company. My board came finished because it was a gift from the retreat. But you could finish it however you wanted. It looks like they just used maybe a walnut colored stain on this. It comes in a natural laser cut color. I like the little pattern that's on the edges of the board. Kind of coordinates with the patterns that are on the piece. Uh-oh, I've got a little loose missing thread. Oh no. That's okay. I have one of those little thread snaggy things, tools, and I can tuck this back in. It just looks like my thread came unsecured. That's what happens when you don't put knots in your work, right? It's like you gotta be careful when you cut them. I am stitching all 4 of these pieces on the same fabric. This is a 32 count fabric by Fabrics by Stephanie called Driftwood. And I bought a half yard cut, and so I've just been cutting strips of it, and that's good. And I actually have just put away the remainder of it now that the 4 seasons are done, and the remaining part is about I want to say maybe a fat 1/8 size, and so that's really useful because it's a nice neutral brown tone fabric, and I'm sure I will use it for other things. So when I went to the Jingle Ball, I didn't participate in the hands-on design class, but they did at the time release a new pattern. And did I print it out? No, I didn't print it out, but I'll show you what I have set up for it. The new hands-on design pattern is called Christmas Folk, and it's going to be the exact same dimensions, but they use a different fabric. I actually pulled this fabric, which is the offcut from that 324 stitch along that I showed you earlier, and I've started to gather some of the colors. I don't have all of them. There's just DMCs, and I'll see if maybe I can float a photo of that pattern. But this is going to be a pattern that I will work on, this year at some point. It's not quite a work in progress yet, though. It's more of a kit in progress. Here are more of the colors. So lots of browns and Christmassy colors. I'll show you the rest of what's in this bag in a minute, but I want to show you these first. So the next one I have that I've been working on recently is called Frosty Tiny Town. This is by Heart and Hand Needleart. I'll take it out of its thing. And this is actually a stitch along that I started with my friend Jenna from the Redheaded Stitcher last month, and I've really enjoyed just kind of slowly working on it. Oh, my needle I have a loose thread here. So I made my own color conversion of the chart. The chart uses a lot of Weeks Dye Works or DMCs, but I used to be part of a club that was like a Color and Cotton Floss Club of the Month. They sadly discontinued that last year, so they don't offer it anymore. But I thought it would be nice to take those colors and kind of work into my tiny town. And then the fabric I used is an offcut. It's actually called Glacier, which is perfect for a tiny town that's frosty. But this is a fabric that is dyed by Forbidden Fiber Company. And I actually used the other half of this same fabric to stitch Seaside Tiny Town last year. So here's what I've got so far. I am about halfway done on this. This is my third tiny town that I've stitched. I think I have most of the patterns kitted up, or like at least purchased the patterns. The other two tiny towns that I've already stitched are Big Hearted Tiny Town, which is like a Valentine's Day themed one, and then that Seaside Tiny Town that I just talked about. When I finish them, I like to do what the pattern suggests and finish them into a round drum shape. Here, I'll show you the design. Here's the design, and then this is that drum I was talking about. And I think that that's how I'll finish this one too. And it would be nice to have like a little drum for all seasons. I like to do seasonal decorating on my dining room table every month or every couple months. Right now we have some winter stuff set up. I don't have a lot of cross stitch up there because I don't actually have a lot of winter cross stitch themed stuff. I have a lot of Christmas stuff, but not winter. But I've been trying to rectify that, and that is with this next pattern that I started this last year, right before the tail end of the year. Let me take this out of the hoop. This pattern is by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I'm stitching this on a piece of fabric that I got from Jody from the Steel City Stitchers. She used to have a stitching club. I'm only going to have to use 1/2 of the fabric. I don't have very much done yet on this. But the name of this pattern is Winter Waddleland by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Here's a picture of what the pattern design looks like. It's a bunch of penguins at a skating rink with their penguin coach, and they're very cute. And I really like how these colors are playing on this like soft purpley fabric. And I am excited to have something that I can put out that is like a winter themed decoration that is not like a Christmas themed decoration, because I have a lot of Christmas stuff. I have more Christmas stuff than I can display sometimes, and I have to swap them out. But I love stitching Christmas stuff. And actually, because I love it, and because I have a lot of works in progress that are Christmas themed, and a lot of kits that are Christmas themed, one of my 2025 aspirations this year is to do a Christmas project all year round. And I'll show you some of those projects I have. One of them is quite big, but I already mentioned that I had the hands-on design Christmas folk. I have another one in the same bag here, and I don't have the pattern leaflet printed out in a way that you can look at it, but I'll show you my fabric and my floss. First off, what is the name of the pattern? This is actually a finishing kit I got during the Jingle Ball. The name of the pattern is Deck the Halls by Hands On Design. This is a set of 3 oval shaped ornaments, and so I went ahead and I bought from her the ovals. I ordered the fabric from from 123 Stitch. The name of the fabric I got was called Plain Air, and it is a linen, and it is a 32 count, so it's a very pale like gray blue. And then I have kitted up with the flosses. Now there are a couple DMCs here, but you can see that we've got some very pastels, like a seafoam green, and then like a muted, like kind of washed out reddish pink. And I think these are really gonna be cute. The set of 3 ornaments includes like an angel ornament, a like wooden carousel ornament, and then a third one, a bird, you know. And so I just think that this is going to be a really fun project to work on this year. Something that's small, something that I can enjoy finishing, and then something I can enjoy having on my tree. Because I'm always in search of new like handmade ornaments that I can make and I can enjoy, and that they don't break when they fall off the tree. Because I do have this cat, and she does like to knock stuff off of the tree. Although she has slowed down. So let me show you my big Christmas project, and then we'll move into, you know, maybe some other stuff to talk about. But this is a project that is going to be a long-term project, and it is a set of stockings that I am stitching. The designs are by Jody from Satsuma Street, and I have stitched the first stocking because I just could not put it down. I finished this kind of at the tail end after Christmas, and then I have picked out the materials for the next stocking. I want to make a whole set, so 4 stockings, because we have 4 family members. Now, we already have stockings. In fact, I have my childhood stocking that my mom stitched for me. It's a needlepoint stocking. So these are not to replace the stockings. These are more to just have kind of additional stocking decorations, and also to have matching stockings. Because eventually, like when my kids move out, they're going to take their stockings with them, but I'm going to still want to have a stocking for them. And so alternate stockings for us. Pretty silly, but it gave me an excuse to stitch these because this pattern was just so cool. So the first stocking I stitched is Cosmic Christmas. This was a new pattern that was just released this year. Let me bring it up closer so you can see. First off, this fabric is fantastic. This is another 28 count fabric dyed by Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers for their club fabric of the month. It's got a lot of blues. It's got some very like splotchy colors, and I think it looks exactly like a cosmic fabric. And then we've got Santa in his flying saucer, and then some reindeer, including Rudolph, with their little bubble helmets, decorating a tree on a very cratered moon. And then there are other things. The most fun thing, but also the most challenging thing to stitch on this was all of this back stitching motif, like nebula motifs on the bottom or on the background. But the little stars are so cute. It just has like a vintage, like 50s atomic look to it that I just fell in love with. And so I'm very excited to have my first of my 4 stockings done this year. So this is going to be a year-long project. These are a lot of stitches. I think that each of the stocking patterns I've chosen are probably between 10,000 and 12,000 stitches a piece, and there's a lot of back stitching, and that is something that cannot easily be tracked in Markup RXP. The next stocking I'm going to make is for my daughter Katie, and I don't have the pattern printed out, but I'll put it here. The name of the pattern is Nutty or Nice, and it is a nutcracker pattern, which is cool because when she was really little and into just like pink princess stuff, you know, she definitely had like a special place in her heart for Clara and the nutcracker. I chose this beautiful pink fabric, which is another Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers cut, and I have all of the DMCs kitted out and very messy here, but they're going to look really nice. This one also has some more metallic elements to it, so I'm using DMC Diamond in a silver and a gold. And I just think that when I start this, I am going to have so much fun. So by doing Christmas all year round, I think that it's just really going to like, I just think I'm really going to enjoy it. I think that I'm always a little sad when Christmas is over. I really enjoyed last year stitching the Tiny Modernist Yule Goddess. I think I finished that in like March or April, and then I put it away, and then when I came back to it, I was just so happy like to see it again. It's like welcoming a new friend back. And so that's kind of what I want to do with this. I will cut it here because I am done with my little pile of current cross stitch works in progress. But I want to show you next some of the Christmas projects that I plan to work on as part of my 2025 aspiration. Okay, so I have brought my notebook, and my notebook has my 25 and 2025 things. It has my 12 months of Christmas, and then it has another one of my aspirations here. So let's talk about 12 months of Christmas. So for January, I am considering that stocking that I completed, my January project. So 1 out of 12 done, hooray. I don't know that February I'm going to work on the next stocking, but the 3 of the 12 projects, and they're not in really any order, they're just kind of my brainstorming order, I guess, are the Nutty or Nice stocking. And then the other 2 patterns I chose are also Satsuma Street, and one is like a hot air balloon Santa that I thought that Nathan would really enjoy. Let me see if I have like photos that I can show you here. This pattern is called Sky High Santa. Picture. Oh, it doesn't show me the whole picture. It just shows me the top half, but you can see the hot air balloon. It looks like the photo got cut off in the markup RXP. That pattern is about 14,000 stitches, so that's actually a pretty big one. And then the other pattern that I chose is called Oh What Fun, and this one I thought would be a good one for my husband Mike, and this I do have a picture of, but it's just a lot of really cute little motifs. Now this one of the 4 patterns is probably the one I am least firm on, you know, like that's definitely the project I'm going to be doing. One thing I've noticed about Jody is that she releases 1 or 2 new stocking patterns every year. And so if I save this one for last, what I might do is I might wait and see, you know, if she releases a pattern I like better. Just like, you know, that cosmic Christmas pattern that I finished, it just like jumped right into my shopping cart. I knew right away that it was like the one I wanted to work on. Now I have this project. This is not one of my 12, but I was sitting on my table, and so I thought I would just show it to you because it is a recent finish. So kind of toward the end of December, I worked really hard on finishing this long time work in progress. And this is another Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery pattern, and it is called Christmas on Gingerbread Lane. And I had a lot of fun stitching it. This is on a crystal fabric by Picture This Plus called Ale. And I have some finishing fun ideas with it. I dug through my fabric stash that I recently organized, and I've pulled a couple fat quarter cuts that I think coordinate really well with this. I might see if there's like a really pretty red too. But what I'd like to do is I would like to make this a holiday throw cushion. I love throw cushions. And so that actually I have out because I, for some reason on my couch, probably because I love couch cushions so much, I have 6 throw cushions, and that's just like way too many, and they end up just getting stuffed into the corner, and then I use like 3 to support my back and arm when I cross stitch at night. And so I ended up putting away one of the pillow covers and pulling one of the cushions. It's sitting in the corner right there, but it's nothing fancy. It's a 16-inch by 16-inch cushion, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this piece and do a cushion cover, and then I'm going to put it on that cushion, and that'll be another one. That'll be like my 4th Christmas cushion, and it'll be nice to have that. So the other projects I have, so that is, you know, let's count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 stockings. That's 4 of the 12. Another pattern I have, I just purchased. This was in a recent issue of the Cross Stitcher magazine. I think that this is from the November issue, and this is a design by Congdon, and I have it put into markup RXP, but I do not have it kitted yet. Let me get the photo, the pattern photo. But she posted this on her Instagram, and I just thought it was really cute. It's called Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This is about 10,000 stitches. Look at the little stars trailing off of the sleigh. This just has a really cute vintage look. I could even work on it and not do like the bottom border, the best day of the year part. I just think it looks like vintage advertising, and it's also Christmas. And so I am excited to work on this. I think that that will be one of my 12 months of Christmas projects too. So that's number 5. Number 6 is a whip. I started this last March, and let me find my cutting board. Did I lose it? Nope, it's under this piece. And this is something that I haven't worked on recently, but it is a fun one. It is called the 12 Days of Christmas. It's a set of 12 Days of Christmas ornaments by Tiny Modernist. And here it is. It looks like I'm about a 1/4 of the way done. I've got 3, and then I've got the other one. Now all these ornaments were charted separately, and it took me a long time to get the spacing right because they're not all like perfectly the exact same dimensions. So it took me a while to figure out how to grid them so that I would have them in 3 and then 4 down. I'm stitching this on a 36 count fabric that was dyed by Forbidden Fiber Company. I believe the color is called Winter Sparrow. It's a very blush pink, and it's really pretty. It goes really nicely with these like bright greens and oranges and turquoises that are in the pattern. Let me show you the pattern, by the way. I'm not going to show you the design, but I'm going to show you just like how like puzzle piecey this is. I can't even unfold it. Like so much Scotch tape here. Yeah, it's real crinkly. So this is like the back side of it. I don't want to like show you too many of the patterns, but what I've done is I have determined how much spacing goes between each of the chart motifs, you know, so that I can have the grid. And sometimes there's 4 stitches between the charts and sometimes there's 6 stitches. And so I just have to be very careful. And yeah, that's something that it was a little bit of a challenge and probably contributed to why I haven't worked as diligently on it, because it sure is cute. I love the 12 Days of Christmas as like a motif for, you know, like holiday decorations. You know, it's fun to make like sets of ornaments. It's fun to do, you know, like all sorts of things with those 12 Days of Christmas. One pattern set that I think is really pretty is Liz Matthews has the 12 Days of Christmas tree patterns that she releases. I'm not sure if she's released all of them. It seems like she's maybe up to 8 or 9 or 10. I'm not sure, but that will be something that, you know, maybe will be on a wish list later. But I don't need a new design because I already have all these new designs to work on, and I have a couple of whips. And this is my next whip. So this is number 7, right? Excuse me. And this is a set of ornaments by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery that are stitched on perforated paper. And I have 3 of them done, and I have the 4th still due. These are snow globes. So we've got a penguin, we've got a reindeer, we've got a fox, and then we've got a little blip. This is the last of the 4 ornaments. I have mentioned this in the past. I find stitching on perforated paper to be really challenging because I just feel like it takes forever. It's kind of like when you dream that you're running away from someone and it's like no matter how fast you run, like you can't actually move, you're not making any forward motion. That's how I feel about stitching on perforated paper. And that's probably contributed to why I'm not done with this. And so it's on my list of things to complete this year because I really would like to be done with it. And despite not really enjoying perforated paper, I heard during the Jingle Ball, like when the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery did like a meet and greet, that they are planning to release like a Halloween theme that is very similar to these. So an ornament set for Halloween, which I'm very keen to see because I love the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And so I'll probably, you know, want to stitch them, but maybe not on perforated paper. Sorry, there was like a little dust on that box and it made my throat catch a minute. I have another kit. I won't open this up because you don't need to see it kitted up, but I have all the flosses here, and this is a kit for another Frosted Pumpkin series that is called Cookies for Santa, and here's a picture of the 4 designs. Now, since there are 4 designs, and let me get stitch counts on this because I did put this in Markup RXP. Boy, I have really enjoyed Markup RXP this year. It's been super helpful. So I have 4 categories for Markup RXP. I have like a wish list category. I have things that I have kitted up. I have the ones that I'm currently doing. There's 13 there. And then things I've finished. And so, yeah. So sorry. Okay, so cookies. I put this in Markup in August, but I haven't done any stitches. So the total stitch count for Cookies for Santa is 9,600 stitches. It's 4 ornaments. And I thought, because I don't want to do like 10,000 Christmas stitches a month, because that's a lot of stitches, and I want to stitch other stuff, I thought for this that I would split this into 2 projects, you know, and so we'll do 2 ornaments for 1 month and then 2 ornaments for the other month to count as like our 12 days of Christmas. So I have it all kitted up. The fabric is a 28 count. It's gingerbread. Pattern is printed out and it's ready to go. 1 second, I'm gonna go get something to drink. That's better. This is orange juice. I'm drinking it in a fancy vintage cup. Feel very bougie. Set that there so that doesn't spill. But I'm glad to feel like less dry because I wanted to show you this next project because I'm very excited about it, because this is one that I've worked on for several years and it's something that I just kind of pick up and put away, but I think that this year I can get it done. And so first, let me show you what I have. So I have a box here, and inside the box, I've collected ornaments. So these are 12 Days of Christmas ornaments, and they are made of felt. Here's one, 8 Maids Milkin'. Here's the back side of it. So these are designed by Larissa Holland. She goes by like 3 M's, mmmCrafts.com. And she sells the patterns for these. And then how you do these is I have drummers here that I can show you. You purchase the templates, and then the templates can be printed on your computer onto this product called Sticky Fabry Solvy, which is like a sticker that you can stick directly onto a piece of felt. And then you can embroider, and then when you're ready to get rid of the sticker, it rinses away in cold water. And then the piece is dry, and you can sew the pieces together, and then you can make, you know, felt ornaments. I have been working on these for so long, and the reason I think that it is taking so long to do is because I couldn't decide what colors I liked best. I bought a color kit. There's a wonderful felt business. It's called Benzie Design. They have wonderful felt products. They're really good for like finishing products. You know, like if you have like a cross stitch finish and you want to add like a little felt embellishment, I just really enjoy them. And they sold kits for this project, excuse me, which I just think made things a lot easier, but it made it hard for me to decide which colors to make all the things. This got a little crunched, but I can fix it with the iron. This is the swan is swimming on a little pond. Here is a French hen with its little pipe cleaner feet. This one I actually have one of the ornament threads attached. I have fallen behind on that. So this set includes 15 ornaments, and I am doing 2 of each ornament. So I have 30 ornaments in here. This one is my favorite. I think it's just something about the colors. This is a calling bird, 4 calling birds. I just love that yellow and rusty color over the bird. And so I want to do the remaining ornaments. There are, they're not actually done in the same order as the song. They're done in kind of like an old English version of the order. And so I still have the drummers to do, the Lord, the Lady, and the Piper. And the Lord pattern also comes with a little bonus pattern, which is like a little heart, which is very similar to this. Like the 6 geese a laying had a separate ornament that was like an egg because they are a laying, see? So 30 ornaments total. 1 set of ornaments a month. So I've got my drummers going. I've got a bag of this colorway of drummer and a bag of these. And then there's like other materials that I have. I have like wooden beads and paint markers and things so I can do little faces. These patterns are really fun. I have enjoyed them. I will be really, really happy to have a full Christmas tree with all of these ornaments on them this year. And so that is my big Christmas project. And I think that's 12. Let me look at my list, see if I missed one. So I've got my Snowglobes, that new Congdon Santa Claus, like vintage looking poster, 3 more stockings, 1, 2, 3. The drummer, the Lord, the Lady, the Piper, that's 4. So now we've got 8. Cookies for Santa, 9, 10. That 12 Days of Christmas project that I showed you, and then the one that I've already done. So that makes 12. So that is my big 2025 aspiration this year. 12 months of Christmas, a project every month. So let's see how I do on it. These are kind of ambitious. So I think I've talked about all of my 2025 aspirations. Let me just recap them. So I have 25 projects of any kind of craft, you know, that I want to finish in 2025. I have a Stitch Alone project, you know, keeping up on that Once Upon a Time every year. And then I have my 12 months of Christmas. And then I have 2 maybe 2.5 more aspirations for 2025. So the next aspiration I have is to, sorry, I wrote it down. I'm glad I did because I really was having a hard time jumping back into this. Oh, this one is something that I'm actually almost done with. And so that'll be good to get something done. But I have been working on a big decluttering project with, particularly with my basement, but around the house too. So over the Christmas break, I watched other people's Vlogmas videos, and I tried to do my own Vlogmas, and it kind of all fell apart. My husband had a little health scare, and then Christmas happened, and then there was another health scare in my family, and I just, everyone is okay, but I couldn't vlog. So I kind of dropped it most of the way through. But I was enjoying other people's vlogs, particularly Sarah from Crochet Vision. I really enjoyed her content. I just think that she's got a fun vibe. I enjoy her. I enjoyed a vlog from Jenna, the redheaded stitcher. Catherine Stitches had a vlog every couple episodes. And then one of my favorite vlogs was from like someone that is, her name is Jamie, and her channel is called Jamie Chaotic. And Jamie does mostly kind of a decluttering channel, but she does other things. And then she has another like sub channel that's called Mid-Century Wasted, because Jamie, like me, is very interested in vintage, like mid-century modern art and kitchen stuff and ephemera and all sorts of stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun watching other people declutter their cool vintage stuff and seeing all the cool vintage stuff. And so I watched every single one of her decluttering challenges. She did a fishbowl challenge where she wrote down 24 decluttering tasks throughout her home, and she picked one out of a fishbowl like every day or every couple days, and then the video would be focused on that. The first video I saw for her was decluttering her vintage barware, and I was like, oh, this is right up my alley. But she also decluttered her kids' books and other things, and I just was inspired by that. And so what I did was I decided to make a fishbowl of my own, and I started it at the beginning of January. But because I didn't think that I could come up with 30 decluttering challenges, and I was concerned about not being able to keep up the pace, I chose 10 decluttering challenges with the aspiration of doing like one every like 3 days or so. I thought that was a good pace for me. Most of these things that I addressed were things that like were in neglected spaces in my home. I have a basement, and it is a basement that's used mostly for storage. I keep my craft like stuff that is not cross stitch or quilting related down there. I actually affectionately call it Craft Dungeon. I have my yarn there. I've got some very old crafting stuff there. And I just like, it's been a couple years since I've gone through it. And so that was part of the things that I worked on decluttering this month. I did do a little bit of stuff on the, main floor. I redid our front closet because the kids all outgrew their shoes and their snow pants again. We have a utility drawer in the kitchen, things like that. But largely I was identifying spaces in the basement. And then the project ended up becoming bigger because I've mentioned in this channel in the past before, but I'll say it again in case you're new. We have 2 kids. We live my husband and I live here. Our house is mostly open concept, and it's a ranch style house, and it's about 1,400 square feet. And it's kind of starting to feel a little crowded because we have like kids that are teenagers. And we knew this when we were buying the house that, it might feel crowded for like 5 years, and then kids will start, coming up with their own homes and stuff like that. And so we're committed to kind of just living through here, especially since we didn't realize that the housing market would be as it is, where it's just like, I don't think we could get a house for the price that we paid back, in 2009 for this house. And so I love my little home. But we also didn't know at the time because we didn't have him yet, but my son Nathan is disabled. He's autistic. You know what? When we did evaluations, they weren't doing the levels yet. There's like level 1 autism, level 2, level 3. And so I don't have a level. And they actually very specifically said, we're not going to do a level because my son is nonverbal. And I guess if we were going to look at a level, he's probably level 3, which is the severe. And so he requires a lot of care, and he's quite the handful. And what my husband and I really have aimed to do all along, but I really wanted to ramp up this year, is giving each other like respite from caregiver burnout. And how that looks for me is, I get to go to cross stitch retreats periodically. I actually have signed up for 3 retreats this year. I have 2 141 pep rallies. There's one in the spring and one in the fall. And then I signed up for StitchCon, and I'm weekend A again. And so I'm really looking forward to these big retreats because it's a nice way to connect with other stitchers. My husband, however, doesn't have hobbies that are really social, like where he wants to go out and be in a community in person. He really likes virtual reality, and he could do virtual reality games like when the kids were little and they went to bed at 8, and it was convenient because we could set up the family room and he would have a blast. But that has gotten a lot harder as my son has turned 13 and now he's up till 10, and he makes messes, and sometimes we're like in the middle of stuff and then he runs in. And so this is a long way of saying that this declutter project kind of started as a like, wow, that's a motivating like New Year's resolution-y thing to do. But it's really become, let's make a space for my husband that he can do virtual reality and be kind of uninterrupted. And I've succeeded. So I cleaned out my storage, my craft storage. I went through, I got rid of old glue that had dried up. I used my neighborhood's Buy Nothing group to, get rid of crafts that I don't use. I had a lot of like kid craft stuff from like when my kids were in elementary school, and you buy like, pipe cleaners for whatever they need for school or whatever. And that was nice to give to someone else. My husband also decided he didn't want to have a sofa in the basement. And so my stepdad actually came down for something else a couple weeks ago. But my stepdad and my husband removed the sofa from downstairs. And then we had a television that we donated to. And so we've cleared out a big empty space for him. When I cleaned out my craft space, I was able to take some things that I had in storage totes and then merge them into the built-in shelves that are in that space. And so that freed up some floor space too. The most recent thing I did was this weekend, I cleared out an area like that's kind of close to our laundry situation. Our basement is kind of divided in half. So we've got like a finished kind of like, rec room side, and then there's a wall, and then on the other side we have like more of a utility side that's like the laundry stuff is there, our furnace, our water heater, our tools, all of my seasonal decoration storage, which might be a decluttering challenge in the future because it is quite overwhelming. I've got a lot of decorations. And one thing that I wanted to do was we keep our cat's litter box down there because I don't want my son to get into it. There's a gate that separates the basement from the main floor so that my son can't go in there unattended and get hurt with the tools and stuff like that. But there's a little pet door so that my cat can go down there. And so it makes sense to have the cat litter box there. But if it's on the like rec room side of the floor, then no matter how often I sweep, it's like, it's just not pleasant to have a cat litter box like in the area that you're hanging out. And so I went into the utility side this weekend, and I cleaned out an area that was a good corner. It was actually kind of right under the stairwell, and I found a treasure that I'll show you later. I found a cool vintage lamp underneath the stairs that I didn't know I had, and I'm excited about it. I'm going to refinish it. But I moved her litter box kind of closer to the laundry area, and she's using it, so yay! And that's gonna make it a lot cleaner for my husband to have his virtual reality space. Our next step is to buy him some like gym mats or puzzle flooring, foam flooring. So when he does virtual reality, he gets quite active. Like he can roll and do somersaults and stuff like that. And he'll have space, and it won't be like cold basement floor. So I started out, I did, decluttering little challenges, and then it ended up morphing into a big project that I'm really proud of. I'm really grateful I can give him this space. It makes me feel like you know, I'm getting brownie points, you know, wife points or something. Let me just tell you the list of stuff. I organized our gift wrap. I, you know, went through, you know, and removed that sofa. I did all my craft shelves. I had a bunch of craft fabric that I don't use. It was like leftover from Halloween costumes. And so I donated that, but I kept the felt that I do use. The things that I don't have complete yet that are still in my fishbowl are, I have all of like our cleaning chemicals that I want to go through. A lot of them are like on top of our laundry machine. And, you know, just kind of dust and wipe off that area. And then I also have like empty storage bins, because as I was moving stuff and, you know, removing things out of our home, you know, the use of the containers that we used to organize things changed. And so I've got a little pile of bins that I want to kind of streamline, you know, so I don't have like a huge pile of bins, you know, that are empty in my room. And so I feel like that has been a really rewarding way to, you know, finish that. And that's a little bit of a life update for me too. You know, that was what I was doing when I was not stitching. So, the next thing that I want to do, you know, as a crafty aspiration this year is I want to really work a lot in my fiber arts, my knitting and my crochet projects. Now, I was almost exclusively a knitter and a crochet, like fiber artist, you know, up until I got really into cross stitch again around 2020. And then I kind of shifted over to be like all cross stitch all the time. But a lot of other people that I follow on Flosstube have really gotten into knitting, and I've wanted to do knitting again. So I have been working on things. I finished the sweater last year. Actually, around this time last year, I've had 1 year of this sweater. I love this sweater. It's by Andrea Mowry. It's called Wool and Honey. I actually just finished another sweater that I worked on throughout. Is that I want to have one knitting project and one crochet project going on at all times. And if you give me a second, what I will do is I will go get my sweater that I just finished, because that was a big deal. I actually talked about it on my Flosstubes a lot last year. And then I want to show it to you. And then I also will show you what I'm currently knitting and what I'm currently crocheting. So one moment, please. I'm glad I paused it because it turned out I had left my current knitting project in my car. So I had to go run out into the snow and get it. But first, let me show you what I just finished because I'm very proud of it. This is a sweater, a cardigan I made. So this is the Rainbow Heirloom Quilt Cardigan. I'm calling it rainbowy because it's very, very pretty. I have all sorts of really beautiful colors here. So how this was constructed was I knitted all these little patches with these star blocks, and then I seamed them together. There are 15 blocks on the back side of the sweater, and then there are 2 side panels on each side of the front, you know, that are 6 panels. And this sweater itself is meant to be kind of a cropped sweater. I'll see if I can insert, I did take some footage of me like twirling around in it, like when I finished it like 2 weeks ago. See if I can put that on the side there. But I learned so much while doing this. First off, I stitched this with sock yarn, held double. The name of the sock yarn is, well, it's a mix of sock yarn, which has nylon in it, and then singles yarn, which is like a single twist yarn called Skinny Singles, and that's by Hedgehog Fibers. And then each of the sleeves is kind of like a balloon style sleeve. And I want to get nerdy about the construction of these sleeves because I learned a lot and I tried some new techniques for this. So first nerdy thing to talk about is I knew when I was stitching these that I wanted the majority of the patchwork squares to have blue backgrounds with like other colors. There are a couple that are like the opposite sprinkled in, like this one and that one there. But the majority of the squares that made up this sweater had blue backgrounds and then colorful stars on the, you know, foreground. But when it came time to do the sleeves, I did not have enough blue yarn left because I'd used it in the backgrounds to make a full sleeve. And so what I did was I started my sleeve and I was weighing with a food scale my yarn. And when I got like to roughly like 60% of the yarn ball left, I started switching to another color. And in this case, I went with this orange. And what I did was I knit like every other row so that they kind of fade into each other in the background, right? And then when I got to the end of the sleeve, running out of orange, I did the same with these creamy, like kind of rainbow cupcake colors to make the cuff. And so that's one of the sleeves. The other thing I did is, because this is a cropped sweater, I was concerned that if I raised my arm, hey, you can actually kind of see it happening with this other sweater. When you raise your arm, you'll see that the fabric that's like the side of the sweater also raises. And that has to do with how much fabric is in like the underarm area. And one thing you can do in clothing, and I've discovered you can do with knitting, is you can add gussets or like additional little pieces of fabric, like wedges of fabric, that'll allow you to raise your arm better. And so I made underarm gussets. I'll show you this one right here. So you can kind of see, kind of reminds me of like an elbow patch. It's like a diamond shaped insert in the underarm so that when you're wearing the sweater, you have all of this extra fabric that can fold in under your arm so that you can raise it, but it's not pulling the side like so, like that it's like all the way up into my underarm, because this was a cropped sweater. And so there wasn't a lot of space like between the underarm and the edge of the sweater. It's just like, I don't know, 7 inches. That's pretty short for me. So to make this underarm gusset, what I did was these squares were sewed together, and then what I did was I knit like a little triangle, and then I sewed it in to the side seam, and then I just started knitting my sleeve around and around and around. And when I got to the edges of my triangle, I gradually decreased. And so that line right there is actually part of the knitting. So the bottom half of the diamond is sewn in. The top half is just created by doing increases and decreases in the fabric. And so I've got a gusset. I really enjoyed this project. I was actually kind of like a little sad when it was done because it had taken up so much of my time last year. But I've worn it out a couple times. I was going to wear it today, but I thought I might have to shovel snow and I didn't want to wear it while I was shoveling snow. I definitely think I will wear it next Wednesday. Hey, I started this thing that I do on Wednesday nights. It's a class that's offered for free through my city, and it's called Citizens Academy. I don't know if you have citizens academies where you live, but it's a way to learn about local government. And every week we meet at a different part of our community, and we learn everything to know. So this is week 4. Today we are learning about our water department, but last week we got to learn about the fire department and medical rescues, and we got to also learn about city finances. A previous week we learned about county services and how counties and cities work together, and this is like very interesting to me. And it's also kind of a cool way to learn more about my community, because that brings us to like my last resolution, and that is to continue to widen my community. Now, I mentioned in previous videos that sometimes I feel like I'm kind of in a little bubble. I've actually probably felt that way since, COVID times. Like we had a pretty extensive lockdown where I live, where the kids were home. But also I feel that way because, I think that my kid's disability really limits the ways that we can participate in our community, because we want to be considerate of other people and their needs, and we want to be safe. And a lot of issues with our child, not necessarily every autistic person, but our kid, is that he's really strong and he's fast, and sometimes autistic children like to elope, which means like they wander off and you don't know where they are, and so that limits our ability to like go out in public. And so I've always been looking for opportunities to, widen my circle. You start your circle at home and then you go out. And I've participated a lot in school stuff for my kids, but now that my kids are both teenagers, they don't need mom at school anymore. So I'm not doing that anymore. Last year I worked as a tour guide for the Alden B. Dow Home and Studio. I actually left that job in October, you know, for a variety of reasons. There was just kind of getting back into that, you know, providing respite for my husband thing. It was taking up enough of my Saturdays that it was like starting to seriously impact his ability to have weekends off. And so that was kind of the primary reason. And there were a couple other reasons that just, it made sense. It's kind of a bummer because I enjoyed giving those tours and I enjoyed that beautiful house and learning all about it. But I mean, I left on my own terms, right? And so that's good because you never know. Like, as my circumstances change, maybe I can rejoin. So I've had that little bit of shrinking, though, in my community. And so going to things like Citizens Academy and meeting new people. There's a lot of people from all throughout my city and even throughout my county that are participating in this. It's about a class of 30 people. Going to retreats like the ones that I'm excited to go to this year. Interacting with you on social media. I am on Instagram. I started a Blue Sky. I do threads and I do here, YouTube, right? And so I'm connecting to people online. You know, those are all ways that I can kind of like participate in a community and, you know, belong to a little group. And I think that that's, you know, something that I definitely have craved. And so one of my aspirations this year, you know, is to continue to widen that community, you know, to join in with other people. And so that's why I want to wear this sweater next week, because I think it'll be kind of a fun conversation starter and maybe a little bit of a humble brag. I'm kidding. So let's talk about what I'm currently working with yarn. And then I think I will wrap things up. I did want to kind of go through the rest of my works in progress because one thing I've noticed about my WIP bin is that I have some projects that I'm just not interested in completing. And I kind of feel like I need to get those out of there and I don't know what to do with them. And so maybe what I will do either as an extra video next week or as my next, you know, regular upload is let's take that basket out and let's just go through them. And I'll be candid about why I'm not into this one or, yeah, wow, I forgot about this one, you know, whatever. But let's sort them out and let's like kind of like declutter our works in progress, right? That should be fun. So for knitting, I have been working on this for a while and this is what I've got. This is a scarf. It is called Unicorn Stripes. The designer has designed it specifically to use these little tiny mini skeins of this yarn. This is a yarn by a company called Madeline Tosh. It's a singles weight yarn and they're called unicorn tails because they're like little 10-gram bundles of yarn. And so this pattern is basically designed to use all of them. Now, I know like you're thinking, wow, this doesn't look very unicornish. There's a lot of earth tones in here. And that is because this pattern eventually will have 30, you know, colors. This is a restart for me. I misread. So each of these chevron stripes is about 16 rows of knitting or rounds of knitting because I'm knitting this in the round. The first time I read it, I read 12 rounds because the first stripe is 12 rounds because there's a border. And so I stitched this as a 12 round stripe and then I realized that it was way too short. I went through like a third of the colors and I was like, oh man. And so I started over, but because it's a scarf, instead of ripping out my stitching completely, I just started on the other end. So this is my mistake piece. Look at how pretty these colors are. So this is one end of the scarf. This is the other end I'm working through. Things are starting to get interesting. I just added this like, the name of this color is Edison Bulb. It's a very neon yellow. And eventually the colors will work through until I get here. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna knit from this, you know, like, and unravel it as I'm working on the new stripe. So I'm quite looking forward to that because these colors are like my favorite colors. These colors are like, kind of like the spinach, if you're looking at this like metaphorically as a meal. I'm not as excited about these colors as I am about these. And so it's nice to have these kind of toward the end of the project because then you know, I have something to look forward to because I'll be really close to the finish line too. So I'll be very excited and I'll be knitting furiously when I'm done. It is exciting to have this be so much longer because I feel like I've been working on this forever because this is just a lot of brown, but it's like twice as long as my original start. And so now I am like less frustrated with the like having to restart at all because I was really bummed. So that's my current knitting project. Now, because it's such an easy pattern, I don't have to refer to it now that I know how many rows I have to do. And so this is an excellent car pattern. And so I have it in this drawstring bag. This is actually the bag that came with my new ironing board cover. It's from Ruby Star Society. And I have all my yarn and my scissors and my project in here, and I can keep this in my purse or near my purse. And I get a lot of my stitches in when I'm doing like school runs, like picking kids up from school. I pick both my kids up from 2 different buildings, but at the same time. And I'm out there for probably about 45 minutes, you know, waiting for kids to walk out of the building. And so a lot of my knitting happens there. A lot of my knitting happens like while I'm waiting for dinner to cook or whatever. It's just nice to have a little project you can work on. My crochet project is also a work in progress that I've had for a while, and I'll unfold the body of the main part. But this is a little throw blanket, and here's the top edge so you can see how wide it is. It's throw blanket wide. And then I've done, you know, about this much on this side. So the name of this pattern is Origami Blanket, and it is made up of a bunch of these squares that are like half square, you know, diagonal, like 2 colored squares. And the pattern came from a blog online. I will write down the name of the blog. The designer's name is Kirsten Bellering, and I'm using her called for colors. This is a wool yarn by Sheep Cheese brand. It's called Metropolis. It is so soft. I really enjoy working on this. Now this project, how this works is you start by crocheting the individual squares, and then you join the squares together into strips. And then when you have a strip of 10 squares, you can join that to the big blanket body. So this is what I've worked on this week. This is my current strip. So the blanket started out and it's kind of like these tawny golden yellow colors. Now we're getting into like some blush tones, and then we're going to end it with more earth tones, like some warm browns and just warm cozy colors. So this is my current stuff. And what I do when I do these is I start on one end and I just add a square as I crochet it. And then each square generates a bunch of these little like loose yarn tails, but I don't weave in all the yarn tails like every single square, maybe like every 2 or 3 squares. And that way I can kind of like tell at a glance which side I'm joining the new squares to. So I know that this is like the clean edge and this is the edge I'm still joining to. And then, you know, it just helps me not, you know, mess up the color order because, you know, you have to flip the diagonals, and I am constantly consulting the diagram to make sure that I'm putting things together correctly so that it makes the overall pattern. So I have just kind of hit the, like, there's 12 rows of 10 squares, so 120 squares. I have just hit like 70 squares and I'm on my way to 80. So 80 is like 2/3 done. Hey, that's cool. So it takes me probably about 25 to 30 minutes to do a square. And then if I'm weaving yarn tails, that can take another like 15-20 minutes. And so this is another good like pick away project. So one knitting project, one crochet project. Concentrating right now on works in progress. I really enjoyed making my sweater, and I keep watching other, you know, YouTubers make these beautiful sweaters. And so I'm kind of like hankering to make another sweater, but I am going to finish one of these, at least one of these first, before I decide to dive into sweaters. I actually was browsing patterns and I found a really cute cardigan that's kind of like a cottagecore inspired. It's a solid colored cardigan. I'll put a picture of it. This is from the company that I've listed below. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. I'll list it right here. And it just got released, the pattern, but it's like a solid colored cardie, and I have some really pretty like turquoise, like this color yarn that might be kind of perfect for it. So we'll see. That might be something later. I just did a blue sweater, so maybe I want a different color. Anyway, projects, right? So it's been a minute, and I'm so glad to kind of be back. Thank you for, you know, kind of meandering through while I gathered my thoughts and, you know, kind of put something out there. Now that I have a video that is finished, I can like get back to kind of like regular scheduled, like organized processes, which makes me feel a lot better. Usually when I make a YouTube video, I make a list of everything I want to talk about. And then, you know, so like all the updates, all the things I finished, the things I started, that kind of stuff. But so much time has passed that I just like, it would just be like 3 hours of like, and then I did this, and then I did that. I probably still, even with all the other stuff that's going on, I try to get a couple stitches into something at least every day. It feels weird to not craft sometimes. I have finished some things, and then maybe I'll just show them to you as I, you know, go through. Oh, actually, I did finish something that last month that I wanted to show you. Do you have a minute? Why don't I show you? Hold on a second. Isn't this cute? This was a design I was stitching before, you know, the end of last year, and then I just did the finishing this year. The name of the pattern is Snow Gnome Snow Cones by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And when this particular finishing board from Chantel's 141 company came out, I just knew that they would have to go together, because these little gnomes and mushrooms are things that I've had since I kitted this project up a couple years ago when it was released. And it all kind of like came together in this really cute little standee thing. This is the larger size of the standee. All of these pieces are separate, and then you can paint them. I painted mine so that the chimney kind of has like a stone look to it. And then I painted this white, and I put little toadstool motifs that match, you know, the motifs that are in here. And then the little snowflake came with it, and I wanted to include it. And then I have the little Benzie design gnomes that are like not quite like the gnomes in the picture, but that's okay because they go with it. We have in my community, actually we have a Santa Claus school, but also we have a Santa house that's in our downtown area. And I was really inspired by the Santa house in this picture. This is not exactly like how the Santa house really looks, but our Santa house is green. It has little bells on it. I put little mushrooms instead of bells, and it's got the like stone elements. And this really is kind of fun because it, even though it doesn't look exactly like our Santa house, which, hey, should I put a picture? There you go. It still like is kind of inspired by it, and it reminds me of it every time I look. So I will, you know what? Actually, I did film myself putting this all together, and so I will release that. I filmed it like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago when I actually made it. But I just have been so like full of intent to do things, and then constantly interrupted by things. We've had a lot of snow days. We've had health stuff happen, and, you know, just stuff. So I'm ready to get back to normal, and I hope that you will join me. So thanks again. If you hung out here all the way to the end of this, I know it was kind of a long one. I assume I cut in and out a bunch, but I really appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you in the comments. If you liked this video, you know, please give it a like. Hey, if you're new and you want to subscribe, that would be exciting for me. I'm really close to like 2,000 subscribers, and that would be kind of fun. It's a nice round number, you know. Hey, maybe I could have 25 subscribers by the end of 2025. Want to help me with that? That would be fun. So anyway, I'll let you go now. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.